Hello and welcome to Admit One episode. Hello. Your movie and TV podcast right here on Rabbit Hole Media. I am one of your hosts, Jack Nedley Thompson, and joining me is the Zimmer frame wielding, mobility scooter riding pensioner himself, Kristian Lasham.
Hello. What's happened to the colours? Why has it gone?
Fucked.
It's really warm, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Colour temperature-wise, I mean, not physical temperature-wise.
Yes, no, it's all right in here for once, temperature-wise.
Yeah, give it time.
Yes.
What did you think of my rich impression?
Spot on, perfect.
Pretty good, wasn't it? Pretty good. There's another one he can do. There's another one he does. There's another one he does. Hello, dear boy. It's my rich impression.
That's good. That was one of those things that I never picked up on that, but as soon as you did it, yeah.
It's because Chris is now old. Hannah says Jack looks younger. Is that because Chris is now old? Chris is very old.
It's also because I shaved off about 43 pounds of beard. Wow. So, Father, stay!
You know what they say? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
You're nearly there.
What?
It's not best. You got the word wrong, but it's...
Oh,
you're
close
there
enough.
in sentiment.
Isn't it highest then? Which is the same general thing.
Sincerest or something.
Why don't you just suck my dick?
You're 30 now, no. You don't get that anymore.
Dear. I also do. I feel old. I feel very old. My insult. There's no insult. It was endearing.
Yeah, it was just an impression, isn't it? Not every insult is an impression. You're not trying like... That's my impression of Chris now, with his cane.
It's pretty accurate.
When I posted that we were doing a GoFundMe for your mobility scooter, you joke, but I'd love one.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I haven't got a walk. Wonderful.
Yeah, fair.
Also, I reckon they're just fun.
You need a fast one.
Yeah, fair point. I'm going to have to unbutton. It's not what it seems like. I'm going to have to unbutton. These jeans are just too small. Oh, that's better.
Fair. Anyway, we're here to talk about The Last of Us episode 2. It had a title.
Infected.
What did we put as a quote?
I put as a quote, our luck had to run out sometime.
Fair. Good one. It's a good one. I couldn't think of any that were funny.
Last week I was I put the quote thingy as "When You're Lost in the Darkness," which was the name of the episode, and I thought that could be nice. Just put the name of the episode as the thingy. But then this week's just called "Infected." It's like that doesn't quite.
It's a bit shit, isn't it?
It doesn't work as well for the going live quote.
Richard's put jokes aside. Sadly, I won't be around much tonight due to Thursday nights being gaming night. Absolutely fair enough. And then he put, I enjoyed this episode a lot, and so did I. For the most part, we'll get into all of that. But as always, this is Rabbit Hole, so we're going to kick it off with something violently negative. These cold opens need to fuck off.
Now last week you said that you didn't like the cold open, and I was very much like, no, I really liked it. This week, it was weird. How do I put this?
It was shit.
Yes and no. I agree with the sentiment. It needs to go. I agree. I don't think this cold open was worthwhile. I don't think it added anything that was relevant. I think it's put the focus into the wrong part of what makes The Last of Us good. You know, what's good for me about The Last of Us is the fact. Well, yes, it's Joel and Ellie, but in particular, it's the fact that the setting is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And whenever I sold The Last of Us to someone, and I mean that literally. I used to work at selling games, and people come and say, "Hey, what do you recommend as a game? What kind of things do you like? What have you got? Your PlayStation? Have you done The Last of Us? No, I haven't played The Last of Us. What's that? Great. I need to now pitch you The Last of Us in a way that's going to make you buy it." from someone who fucking loves it. And I fucking loves it. One of my selling points was always the fact that it is in a post-apocalypse, a zombie-ish type world is just the settings. It's just background chatter, as you said. It's not what it's about. It's not about the infection. That's not what the story is about. That's just the world it's set in, which for me was its biggest selling point. It's not about the infection. It just happens to be happening. That's just the vehicle for the story. Is all it is.
This story could have been told with any backdrop.
Yes, the story is about Joel and Ellie.
No.
That's the story about Joel and Ellie, which, you know, for those that are uninitiated and haven't seen the show, Hannah, I saw Extreme Sports hasn't played it, so doesn't know, and it will be clear to you by the time you end it on episode 9. The story is about Joel and Ellie, because I don't think they've stopped telling that story. I think when they're telling that story, they're still telling it really, really well.
Yep.
But for me, this cold open here, giving me more context than what's needed, because it doesn't serve the story at this point.
No,
it's not serving the story. It's giving context to the background, but I don't need that. And, you know, there's...
I just feel it wastes time.
Wastes time.
That was like 10-15 minutes long.
And takes the focus away from what I think's important, which is Joel and Ellie. I don't think any of the stuff with the infected is actually important, because it's not. That's not what the story is about. So I just think it takes the focus off it, which is my problem. I don't think the scene in itself was bad. I think what they did, and you know, I think if it was part of a different thing, if I was getting this as expanded lore in a different vehicle, if it was given to me in a different way, if it was done as like random little one-shot shorts or something, or it was a story I read on a note whilst playing or whatever, what actually happened, I think is really quite interesting. The whole concept of what the scene was.
I still disagree there.
We'll get to that in a second. But I liked that, but I just don't think it serves any purpose for the main story. Therefore, I don't see why it needs to be there, which is why I think it just get rid of it. What is it you didn't like about it? You said that you don't think it's good.
It's generic. It's been done 900 times.
I haven't seen that exact thing before, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been done. It just means I haven't seen it before. So,
This is... someone has been bitten. Oh, we need a doctor. Let's go.
Oh, right, that side of it. Got you.
We need a doctor. Let's go grab them. Oh, there is nothing we can do. I'd look at the infection. Oh my God, how has this happened? This isn't possible. What do we do? There's nothing we can do. Hide, run, whatever. In this instance, bomb.
That was the other thing, like, about that thing. Like, it was almost like there's... At first, when it got to it, and when she said about bomb the city, bomb everyone in it, I thought they were like, they're giving context to the fact that they're going to be walking through a bomb site in a minute. But then they said that as they were walking through the bomb site. Eddie went, is this where they bombed? And Tess gave us the explanation then.
But yeah, it was
like a double load of exposition.
The Peter Capaldi scenes in World War Z. It was the scene where... This is another thing where they added for a TV show, because it doesn't happen in the comics at all, where they go to the CDC in The Walking Dead. And it's just like, we don't need... like. Again, in the comic for The Walking Dead, you don't know what happens. It's irrelevant. You're following these characters, and this is how the story of how they survive and what they do and how their relationship builds and what have you. Very similar to, well, not in what happens, but in premise to The Last of Us in that way. But then for some reason, the second that they get turned to TV, we have to find out why. No, fuck off. Just leave it.
Yeah, and
it's not needed. Clearly, it's not needed, because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten to a point where the TV show would have been developed.
Yes, exactly.
Such a high budget as well. Like, it's unnecessary. Were the zombies not relevant in The Walking Dead? Not really. It happened, like, to the point where
I don't know anything about The Walking Dead.
I started reading it last night, and everything kicked off, and they were just... It was mid-apocalypse. On page 2 of a comic. So you're 15 seconds into reading and it's done. It's sorted. Everything you needed to know about the build-up, done. Sorted. Move on. They don't really tell you anything about that. It's like, it is more prominent that you are in a zombie apocalypse. It is more important to the story than it is in The Last of Us, but they don't make a fuss about it.
Yeah, I think with The Last of Us as well, it's not so much that the infected aren't relevant. They're very relevant. It's that it's not the focus of the story it's telling.
No,
that it isn't, here's a story about an infected zombie apocalypse. That's not what the story's about. It just happens to be the setting it's in. You know, the story is very much about Joel and Ellie and their relationship and how that continues into stuff going forward as well. Like that's what it's about. It's like let me see if I can think of an example Off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
It's also like The Road, which The Last of Us is heavily influenced by. There's a story called The Road. They don't tell you shit. They don't even tell you what happened. Like, you just know that there is hardly anyone left.
I mean, you learn a lot in the game by characters interacting and by picking up notes, but
I learn what happened.
No, you get inklings.
You get inklings, and more you learn individuals' experiences throughout what was happening, but you never really learn what happened.
Yeah,
and I don't. It's not needed. It's like, okay, but after that, I was like, okay, that was a complete waste of my time.
Yeah, I thought that as well, because also it's like, I'm here for Joel and Ellie's story.
Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit about.
I don't care about this.
Yeah. This, not only that, but to the story that we've been seeing so far. This was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I've got a strong feeling now this is a weekly thing.
I'm worried it might be.
I think,
but we'll see.
I think we're going to get a weekly cold open that's utter bollocks in the past about how the infection happened, and that's going to really drag it down for me, I think, if I have to keep doing that.
It's not in any way going to ruin the show for me, but it's a shame to have
ignore it, but it's just like I'm going to have to deal with this. It's more that we've got this limited amount of time per episode, obviously, and you're going to waste. That was a big chunk.
It was a big chunk.
It was for like 10, 15 minutes.
Big chunk, especially as it did the
3-minute episode or something.
Especially as also it had quite a long on last week's at the beginning as well. That was quite long. It showed you pretty much the entire previous episode.
Yeah. So what was actually useful of this and interesting of this episode was really quite short, and that was just it's a shame because that was really good. What we got from this part of time, was actually really good.
Most of it, I agree. I mean, for the most part, I'm very much still on the. I think this is excellent.
Oh no, Rich!
I think he left. Someone deal with the spam.
I don't think we have any other bots. We don't have any other mods though.
No, we'll have to stay.
Aww. I want to offer promotion of your channel. Viewers, followers, views, chat bots. Viewers and views are the same thing. The price is lower than any competitor. The quality is guaranteed to be the best. Auto on, incredibly flexible and convenient order management panel. Everything is in your hands. Turn it on, off, customize.
There. Anyways, so yeah, mostly I still think it's excellent. Like, agreed. Generally, I think it's excellent. Agreed. There are you made a couple of comments to me before we started about some performance stuff, which I personally didn't get at all. I personally think the performances are great. I like that there's a little bit difference between the performances of these cast to the game ones. I don't like still some of the arbitrary changes. I don't think I like yet, and I don't know if that's just because I'm struggling to disconnect myself from what I think I know. But there's a couple of things I just at the moment I just don't think I like. Is all. I don't think it's even bad. I just don't think I like it.
On this, we seem to. Oh, there's a weird. Hello. That was weird.
That was weird. That was very weird. I don't know if that's going to come across quite on camera. How weird that sounded in the room. Don't do that again.
I think we kind of. I had more of an issue with the arbitrary changes last week.
Yeah.
I don't this week.
It's odd.
Really, yeah. Yeah, I don't. I think it's just I've accepted my fate in that one, so I'm not.
So first thing, there's the whole spores thing. So there's no spores in here. It's all done through tendrils. Now, there's context to this, and they've spoken about it outside of it. Of like, in reality, if it was to be spread by spores, the spores would be fucking everywhere all the time.
We'd be fucked.
Yeah. There'd be absolutely no one surviving because it just would be everywhere all the time. End of. Fine, fair enough. However, I would also argue that that's just a valid argument in the game. You know, people have said, "Oh, but you get away with that in a game mechanic. It works well for a game mechanic." It's like, okay, but the reality doesn't change. What they did, I think, within the game though, that made it fit within the reality, was
we will do. Yeah, we'll get.
Yeah. So the spore in the game, the spores were in deeply infected areas of the fungus growing. The fungus would release spores, and then the spores would also cause infection, which is what cordyceps does in real life.
Well, yeah, it's when they've depleted your body, they would then grow out and sprout and then start bursting out spores.
And what was happening in the games is that would be happening in either underground areas or locked away within buildings.
It's because that's where they would go to die.
Because that's where they'd go to die. So so the spores would be in those particular places. Mm-hmm. So I would argue, based off that same reason, the spores
could just do it again.
Yeah, you could just do it in the same way and just have the spores only in small underground places or look deep inside buildings, and they haven't gotten anywhere else because that's where they're going to die. So I think actually the argument of saying, well, in reality it wouldn't same argument for the game, but it does work because you can just, I think that's enough. That is enough even in this real world TV show context to buy. I would still buy that and go, yep, the spores are underground because that's where they're sprouting. I'd be okay with that.
Agreed, and kind of more in reality, cordyceps do let off spores. So
yes, yeah, exactly.
But also, let's be honest, this is the reason they're not actually saying they don't want to put their actors in gas masks for a long
That's what it
period of
is.
time.
Yeah, they don't want the gas mask things.
Yeah. Despite the fact that we know that you can act well and get a good performance across with a mask on, because he's already done it.
Yes. But also, the tendrils thing, again, is a real thing. Some fungi and some breeds of cordyceps
trees and
do spread with tendrils. And the mycelial network they talk about in this, which is the tendrils connected underground, which connects them all and allows them to communicate, is also a real thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely a real thing. So fine, based on reality, I'm okay with that existing. However, I don't think that again, I don't think it adds anything. I don't think it adds any new terror or anything like that. I actually just think it makes it, for me, even though it's a real thing, strangely less believable and less interesting, because then it just comes to, we got, oh, look, there's just a big horde of infected, and then you step on some fungus and then infected 2 miles away will wake up and we'll all be after you. It's like, but that's not what was the infected were never like that in the game.
I don't think we're going to get many more big hordes.
I hope not, because a horde every now and then I'm okay with. Again, there is some in the game. There's a couple of instances of a horde type thing.
Probably strong. I think what we got in this episode was probably bigger than anything.
Yeah, I mean. But I like that it built to that. And I think with this, just having here's a horde of zombies, and then because one died fucking miles away, they're all now coming, was just a bit more generic zombie thing to me. And I was like, that's just, for me, not as interesting. What was interesting and what I always liked about the infected in The Last of Us is that it's a bit different to the zombie stuff we always get, because they're not normal zombies and they don't behave like normal zombies. And they don't come in hordes like normal zombies. And that just, for me, was an interesting thing. So to have this now put in this version, it was like, well, I think that for me, that's not what I liked about the infected. That's not what I found interesting about the infected.
I didn't mind the horde because they explained the horde.
They explained it, yeah,
and
absolutely.
they also explained that that's not fucking common, and it's not normal to have that many in that small space. They were just like, that's fucking weird. This is unusual, and I get the impression that this isn't going to happen very often. And
for me, though, that was for some reason. So they obviously decided to not have that end scene with Tess, for them not to be running away from Fedra.
That's what I was going to say. So that's kind of another reason why I think they hoarded it up a little bit, because they needed something to replace Fedra. I've no idea why.
So they answered that in the podcast.
I don't have time.
So in the podcast, basically, Neil said that Craig said to him, "Why were Fedra there?" And Neil couldn't answer that question. Couldn't give a reason as to why Fedra were there.
Well, I just always assumed they were following Justin.
But they wouldn't have done. And that's what he's saying. Why would they have done? They wouldn't have left a QZ. There's no reason for them to have left a QZ. Fedra's only purpose is to control the QZ. These people have now gone.
That's true.
It's not their problem anymore. So Craig just said to him, why was the Fedra there? And Neil went, I can't answer that. There's no reason for them to be there, in which case let's not put them there. So I think what they were trying to do was retroactively fix a little tiny plot hole. But I'd argue one that didn't need fixing. Because I'd also buy they went chasing after Joel. I'd buy that. They went chasing after him. If you just said to me, the Fedra are there because they've chased him out, I'd buy it. Or they were chasing the Fireflies.
They gave them a reason to in the show.
Because he kills one of them?
Because he killed one of them.
Yeah.
So I actually think that's dumb. See, I think this podcast has been a net negative so far because,
It's interesting, I'll tell you that.
Things get explained in the podcast, and I feel like if you need a podcast to explain your decisions, you've made a bad decision. End of. I don't care what it's about.
I kind of agree, yeah.
If you need to explain yourself...
You shouldn't have to give context.
In a podcast, if you need to provide context, then you've made the wrong decision. It was the wrong decision. Because the context and the fucking intention of your decision of it in a show, game, whatever, should be in the show, game, whatever. And then also, they just point out reasons they've been dumb.
Hannah also mentioned the mushroom snog. I hated it.
I didn't care.
I hated it because it was just like, this is just weird. Like, this has never happened in The Last of Us. They've never had an infected come and kiss you and turn you like.
But that's not what was happening though, was it? They weren't kissing.
No, it was infecting with the tendrils. But it's like it feels like a really large change and takeaway from what the infected are like. There's no point in the game at all where the infected aren't trying to fucking tear you apart. This one had no interest in tearing her apart. Just wanted to put the tendrils in.
Because she was already infected.
Because she was already infected. But in the game, they don't know that. That's never a thing in the game. Oh, you're already infected, so you'll be fine. They'll come and give you a hug. That was never a thing. It was still they'd just rip anyone apart.
Do we ever see infected go near someone who's already infected? I don't think we do.
Well, do you know? I don't know. But I don't know. It just felt odd. Because even then, this should be beat for the game. That's the story we're telling. So why have we put this sudden massive change in there with the way they're behaving? Which was even more odd because just before that we had an outstanding representation of clickers.
But it wasn't. No, I don't necessarily. Well,
I don't think overall it's a big deal. It's just they all feel like changes where like everything this week that's been a change, and I mean like an actual change from what was in the game, has felt like this hasn't added anything. All this has done has gone, well, why did you change that? It was fine the way it was. Why did you change it? The game was already, by the way, critically and commercially a 10 out of 10 across the board, widely seen as one of the best stories ever told in video games, one of the best games ever made. That's why it's been turned into one of the highest budget shows HBO have ever done. So why are you needing to change these kinds of details? To me, it's totally unnecessary to change it. Now, I don't mind having expanded sections where we get new bits of dialogue, new bits of context. I don't mind that. All the stuff we got in the first episode of seeing more what was going on with Joel, fine. Seeing more what was going on with Tess, fine. Seeing more what was going on with Fedra, fine. These are all extra things. I'm okay with this. But random changes to like the way the infected behave and fundamentally are, why? It was good. It was already excellent, 10 out of 10 across the board. So why does that need to be changed? I haven't come away from this going, oh yeah, that's much better. Oh yeah, that's even better.
I haven't come away saying it's better, but I don't come away saying it's worse.
But then it comes to what you said last week. So why change it?
Oh no, I agree.
It's so bizarre.
I agree with that, but I also just don't have a problem with it because it's like this particular infection. The issue they've given themselves, both in the game and in the show, was they've picked a real infection to try and ground it. So they wouldn't just try and tear you apart.
Yeah.
What that zombie did, or what that infected did, is exactly what they would try and do. Maybe not mouth to mouth, but their purpose is to spread.
Yeah.
And if they tear you apart, they've picked a zombie infection where the host can't die. Yeah. As in order to become a zombie, they can't be dead. Whereas obviously, Walking Dead, Dawn of the Dead, everything of the dead, like they're dead. They're not in this. Yeah. That's why, like, chest shots and knife wounds in the gut and stuff can kill them. If the body dies, the infection dies.
Yeah.
Like, their goal is to spread, not to tear people apart. Like, that would be... If that was what this infection did, it wouldn't last very long. A lot of people would die, but the infection wouldn't last.
There's an element of it. So... some of the cordyceps infections in real life will cause the bodies they're infecting to become cannibalistic in order to gain sustenance.
Yes.
So that's where it comes from.
To a degree, but their main goal is to... because what the cordyceps actually does is it consumes itself.
Yes.
And then replaces what it's done. It very rarely actually then they become cannibalistic.
Yeah.
even in the game, they don't really. They don't even try to eat you so much. They just try and tear you apart.
Yeah.
They just try and kill you. So there isn't really. If their purpose is to spread why they do go underground and die, surely dying outside would be. Yes. That doesn't make any sense either. But yes, I'm not saying within the game that is their goal. I'm saying that is the actual infection of cordyceps.
Yeah, that's what cordyceps does in real life.
Yeah, that is that is a fungal infection's goal. That's any form of infection's goal in reality is to spread.
Any life's goal is to reproduce.
Well, yeah.
It's the whole purpose of life. Is to create new life. Yes. So remember, next time I ask you what's the meaning of life, sex.
Sperm.
Jizz. And I want to be clear. Obviously, I'll speak a lot about it because it's a franchise I'm passionate about. None of these things are like big problems where it's ruining the show for me. You know, we've spoken for 25 minutes about issues, but I actually have more positive to say than anything because
so do I. But we
mostly.
Before we move on, may as well linger on this because I still have a bit more to say on this particular thing. Not necessarily negative either. A lot of people have been going on about, oh well, Tess wouldn't react like that to this. So there is many reasons why Tess would react like that.
It's pretty much how she reacts in the game.
No, as into the actual stalk.
Oh.
That's not how stalkers act. That's the bit that bothered me. I was like, they've chosen to make it a stalker.
Yeah.
That's not even slightly how stalkers act. But anyway. She would act like that. You have the option of the infection is spreading and she's going to be losing...
I think at that point it's supposed to be she's already noticed that she's going and she's got maybe like an hour.
Well, or even that, she could be utterly complacent to everything because the infection's already in her brain. We don't know. She's also trying to save the man that she fucking loves.
And what she sees is the one chance to save everyone else.
Yes, exactly. And her chance to save the world. So she's just going to fucking take it to give them as much of a chance. I absolutely believe she would do fucking anything in that scenario if it meant that they would get away. So I don't... Tess would never act like that. Yeah, she fucking would.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah,
I like... did you notice the lighter is Sam's lighter from Uncharted?
Oh, is it? I didn't even notice Sam had a specific lighter, to be fair.
It's the same lighter he has in Uncharted, and they made 2 and gave 1 to Troy Baker. I think that's quite cool.
I just thought it was a silver lighter.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that there was anything on it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, there was, but that's fair enough.
No, I'm not saying there isn't. I feel if it was just a silver lighter, that would be a bold statement to make.
That's the one from Uncharted, yeah.
I would like... I mean, the one from Uncharted was also digital, so I don't think it was.
Also, didn't light properly.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a whole thing about his lighter, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That I didn't like. Not because of anything in particular. It's just this fucking stereotype of we have a lighter in a precarious situation, therefore it doesn't work. Can we write something else interesting, please? Even if you just drop it in the oil and it goes out on its way down or something. Just something different.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times we get...
Should we talk about things we did like?
Yeah.
Fucking clickers.
Oh my.
That whole section, I think, was outstanding for a number of reasons as well.
This is Zippo. They went... Yeah, but I found in my many years as a smoker that Zippos weren't actually that windproof. They would still go out.
Tell me what it was you liked about the Infected.
I think the clickers were fucking perfect.
That's it, clickers, yeah.
Down to sound design, the visuals of them, the way they move.
The sound, they got the same...
It's the same voice actors, yeah. Who did the... I can't do clickers.
I can't do it either.
No. We've discovered something here today. Neither of us can do clicker impressions.
No.
Nope. That sounds more like you're at the end of a bukkake.
Meaning of life.
You don't need that much. I think everything, sound design, the way they moved, the way they looked, I was perfect.
Yeah, and what I loved about it is I think that whole thing captured the moment of that section in the game, of the first time you're meeting them properly and get alone with them, and the way that whole section is done. In the game, that is like, fuck me, what am I supposed to do here? Stay away from these scary things.
Is that the first clickers you come across? I don't think it is. Is it?
It's about that moment, yeah. Well, you meet one that jumps out at you, first of all, which is like a cutscene, and then you go through the building thing, yeah. But this is the first time you're just in a room with just them, because there's normally something else. But the museum, there's a couple that have to go through. Nice. But that whole section of the game is like, okay, you have to stop and listen. And in the game, for those, again, that haven't played it, there is a listen mechanic where you can hold down a button and it zones in, and then he listens to hear where enemies are, and then you can sort of see them behind walls and stuff like that. Very common game mechanic, but it's done as listening. And that's kind of what happens in this. It's stop and listen. And there does a really nice little thing of Joel giving the exposition of what's happening, because he's saying to Ellie quietly, they can't see you, but they can hear you, be quiet, all that kind of stuff. And then what happens in the game is pretty much fucking the same thing happens in this, which goes to fucking chaos when you get seen, and they yell at you and they charge at you, and it's just carnage, just firing clips anywhere, and it's hard and it's a bit manic.
And I got down to the bit in the museum where the ceiling collapses.
Obviously,
they didn't split them up. In this instance, they do split up when clickers start going a bit mad. But
but they have, like, the taking a while to reload his revolver and stuff, which is pretty much how that entire gameplay section goes, because the game is hard. We've spoken before about how the game mechanics are designed to be clunky, really, and it's just not supposed to be easy to shoot straight. It deliberately has a lot of weapon sway, and it's all a bit manic. And any section in the game where you're seen by clickers is a bit manic, and I think it captured it really well.
Yeah, it's just sneaking. Oh!
And I think they captured it brilliantly in this. It just felt like a section of the game to me. Like, it was like you've managed to make a gameplay section work really well on TV. I was really impressed with it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. The reaction to everything as well. I also loved Ellie afterwards. Like, you okay? Like, well, I didn't shit my pants.
It can be a bit scary. That was scary. This is wood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked all the stuff after that as well, when, Tess has broken it or hurt her ankle, and he goes to the back and pulls out the tape and starts wrapping it up with the tape, which is how you heal in game. You wrap tape around yourself. So I really like that kind of thing. And obviously the walking over the wood plank is a shot straight out of the game as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I loved that whole section. I loved that whole section.
I mean, obviously everything you thought, jury's still out.
Yeah.
All that kind of
there's a brilliant bit in this which I don't remember being in the game, but I noticed watching this where he's took Eddie. Tess has gone down the ladder, says that line with Eddie. Eddie goes off, and then there's a moment where he just glances at his watch.
Yeah, that's in the game.
Before he goes off. I believe you. I just don't quite remember that from the game, but I fucking loved it.
He does it for longer in the game because Tess shouts him down.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I loved it. I love that little. I think Pedro Pascal's brilliant. I know there's a couple of things that you said you weren't so keen on his performance, but I think he's outstanding in this. Really good subtleties.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. There's a couple of moments.
You were saying about when Tess is bitten.
When he finds out, yeah, it's
because he plays it differently to how Troy Baker played it.
My issue was the it is over test line is different. That's fine, and that's whatever. He just played it differently. But I kind of feel it wasn't a different performance in his reaction in this. He didn't react.
I think he did. I think it's just more of a sullen, quiet, taking it in. Can't quite believe this. All right, fine.
Yeah, no,
that's why I own that, which I kind of buy. I do. There's a really subtle thing he does where Tess steps towards him and he flinches. I really liked that. Just a really natural kind of like, well, you do okay, yeah, fine, just suddenly on edge. As soon as he finds out she's bitten, he's on edge.
Yeah, I just think, and it being different is fine. I just think in this particular instance,
you think Troy Baker was better?
The first time that I thought Troy Baker was infinitely better.
Troy Baker's performance is outstanding as Joel.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, so far, and I assume going forward, other than a couple of bits, maybe I disagree, but there'll probably be bits I see that I prefer Pedro. Yeah. But yeah, in this was the first one where I was just like, yeah, I way prefer Troy's.
Yeah, that's fair. I loved the opening.
Actually, to be fair, Sarah's death, I thought Troy did way better as well.
I like the opening. Ellie wakes up, and it's like sunlit thing.
Yeah, I think that's cool. That's it. Cool.
Turns around and Tess and Joel are just sitting there like, what the fuck are you about to do? I really like that. And I like all the stuff when they're walking through the city and they're talking about what's going on, and Ellie's inquisitive and wants to know. I like there's a little hint. She's like, oh, so there's not big ones that throw spores at you? Like, shit, I hope not. Like, just a little hint at the bloaters and stuff like that. And
there is one in the trailer.
There is one in the trailer, yeah, but I like the little hint.
Spores, obviously.
I like the little hint, and I like and then also it's also starting to set up the clickers there as well, and some with their heads split open that make sounds like see in the dark, like bats and stuff like that. And then Tess and Joel look at each other when she says that, like, oh yeah, they are a fucking thing. I like all that kind of stuff. I just thought it was really, really good. And I also loved, there's so many bits in this which they got little moments from the game, which are some of my favourite moments from the game. So her at the hotel lobby.
Mm-hmm.
That's a section from the game which isn't in a cutscene. It's just dynamically that if you go and stand in the right place, it triggers that little animation with her pretending she's checking in at the hotel desk, and Joel goes, "You're a weird kid," and walks off. And I just loved that they kept that in. And it means we're going to get the whistle at some point.
She's going to get the joke book as well.
Certainly, yeah.
She's going to get the joke book, but
I love all that stuff because that's what I love about those characters and their relationship, and that's what I love about. I mean, I love Ellie as a character. I think she's great. I love Ellie, and I think Bella Ramsey's nailing it. And obviously, a lot of that is the way it's written because it's written in the same way, same character, but the performances are there. Same person. But I'm just glad that essentially Neil Druckmann and the writing team have not moved away from what makes those personalities, and have just kept all those little quirky things and those moments which are the nearest and dearest to me from the game, which it is all the little moments. You know, like if you when we properly sit down and talk about the bits in the game, it's the little moments, the little things that happen, and I'm glad they're all still there because it's really important.
No, I agree. I agree. Saf asked me a question earlier, but I can't ask it on stream. But I'll ask you later. Okay. Because future spoilers. I'll ask you later. I just thought I'd mention it out loud so I didn't forget. But
I still like I like the way Joel dealt with the fact, right, okay, Tess is going and just grabs Ellie and runs off, and that it's left kind of on almost a cliffhanger of, like, he hasn't said anything yet and he's sort of walking away from Ellie towards the end.
We know what moment's coming. Obviously the bit. Well, they do... This bit is a lot... The escape is a lot shorter than it is in the game. Yeah. Obviously.
What's the next bit? Hang on. Oh, you have to tell me off air, obviously, but...
I can vaguely explain. Because obviously they go down...
Yeah, they go down into the sewers in the game.
It's the bit that I think is going to kick off, other than the 98-minute cold open, I imagine, is Joel's just sat down having a conversation.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
Oh
yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But I think that'll be how it kicks off, because obviously the escape from the Capitol building is a lot longer in the game.
Yes, because there's a lot more. Well, you're trying to get away from the Federer and stuff.
It's a combat sequence.
Yeah, I mean, the game's going to have all these long combat sequences that this won't have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more exploration before they get to the museum in the game as well.
For sure. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see them get to human enemies eventually, because they should have been now. This would be the first time you get... If this was Star Wars Episode 5, would just be a cold open. Yeah.
Mm. But overall, I think it's still excellent, man. I think the tension's so good. It's still got the feeling and everything there of The Last of Us and the tone, and I love watching it. I can't wait for each. It's like I can't wait for the next one, which means it's doing something really right. Still, I still, the little problems I have are only problems that exist because of how much I love the game. Mm-hmm. If I didn't love the game as much as I do, I wouldn't have any of these quirks. I don't think I would just.
Or for just someone who hasn't played it before.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to know the difference.
Yeah, but obviously I'm going to get really hung up on details because it's something that I really care about. So it's easy to get hung up on those details.
That's why I'm getting slightly hung up on just, I didn't quite like that line delivery.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and that comes down to one so well. You know Troy Baker's performance so well, and you're so connected to that performance. And I get it. I'm the same. I'm really enjoying seeing the slightly different take. So I haven't felt that way about it, just because I do like seeing that different take. And I do like Pedro Pascal, so that's all selling for me quite happily.
I love Pedro Pascal. He's excellent. He's excellent. If you can do this, The Mandalorian, and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, you are the massive talent.
Yeah.
Did you know originally in that movie, Nicolas Cage was going to play Pedro Pascal?
Yes, no, I know, yeah,
and
yeah.
someone else was going to play Nicolas Cage. That would have been so good. But I'm glad we got Pedro in there, though. I do like a bit of Pedro.
Yeah,
Daddy.
no, it's good. It's good. Overall, I'm still really damn happy with this, and it's have you seen about the the stats and stuff?
It's huge.
Yeah, it's the highest rated TV show on IMDb, and then it's been the highest, like for HBO, the amount of people that came back for the debut of episode 2, like the increase in viewers is their highest increase of viewers for a second episode ever. So that means that people tentatively tuned in to watch the first episode. It's got 10 million views over the first 2 days.
Yeah, it was the second highest show
for a debut
since
below House of Dragon.
Yeah, since I can't remember what show, but it was a really fucking long time ago. It was like pre-Game of Thrones type TV. And that was like 13 years ago.
But like the fact that then it had like a 22% increase for the debut of episode 2, which basically means that people tuned in across the course of the week, see what this is, and word of mouth, and then by the time they saw episode 1, they went, "Fuck, I need to be there straight away for episode 2."
Yep.
And I get it because it's fucking good, real good, and I really hope people continue to love it.
Yeah, same. I hope it stays as good. Like
I mean, I know what's to come. And I know what moments are to come, and I think there's going to be some.
I'm very excited for.
Some I'm very excited for, and some I'm very nervous for, and some I'm also, I hope they don't. But with the change for the infected, I'm anxious to see how they're going to deal with some moments, bearing in mind the way. Sorry, some of the infected stuff has changed, and next week's episode is concerning because it's clearly taken the largest departure, as it's about a character that in the game doesn't exist. Or a game has passed on already. So we're clearly going to get...
We don't know if it's about him. He's present.
Oh, have you not seen the next week on The Last of Us clip?
No.
I'll show you after the show.
Well, I don't want it.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see. It's a longer episode next week, though. And
it is, which is, I presume that means the cold open's going to be longer.
The reviews have also said that it's one of the best ones. Reviewers have said it's one of the best ones. I'm just more tentative about it because it's the one that seems like it's going to make the biggest departure. So it's like, and not because it's changing anything, just because it's like, this isn't the context you gave me in the game, and I didn't need it, and the section was really good, so I don't know if I need the context now. It's more what it is. Like it worked once, it will work again. I keep thinking that. It was the thing I said about Uncharted. Why change the tone? It worked once, it will work again. Same thing here. It's like, why change this bit? It worked. I don't see why it would need to change, but we'll talk about that next week because we haven't seen it yet.
Indeed.
It might work really well.
It might do. It might not. Who knows? I'm very excited for Bill, though. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm excited for Bill. Absolutely.
But Nick Offerman never hurt anyone. In fact, it just made them infinitely happier.
I've got a TikTok to show you in a second.
Ooh. I like TikToks. I'm a youth. I tell that to my knees. Anyway,
Jaxie youth. Smells like a bag of Watsits down there.
that only makes me laugh because on the way here I had a big bag of Watsits in the car. that I was eating, so it could very well smell like a bag of Watsits down there. Prawn cocktail ones though.
Oh, nice.
Banging, bang in.
What's happening?
Don't ask me that in the middle of the show. That was Saf just saying, "What question did I ask you that you're going to ask Chris?" We'll tell you later.
We'll tell you that.
Anyway, this has been Ambit 1, your movie and TV podcast right here on Rabbit Hole Media. I don't do the rigmarole anymore. What am I doing?
Well, we've got to kill the time somehow.
Coming up on the channel. Tomorrow there will be Richard's gaming stream. I will be privy to it this time. We will be playing Halo with some friends. Join in the chaos. On Saturday, we'll be back for Ambit 1 to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's nothing. Right?
Just Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Saturday. And then next week, of course, we'll be back on Thursday to talk about The Last of Us Episode 3. I would like to get Dead Space done, but I don't know how. So that probably won't happen.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Indeed. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for Halo and Saturday, all 3 days in a row of smashing content. And that's why you go to the Rabbit Hole OnlyFans. 3 days in a row of smashing content.
It's good. I see what you did there. That is where we make our best stuff.
That's probably how we would make the most money as well.
Oh, yeah. That's no doubt.
What a depressing thought.
I think of many depressing thoughts. I'm 30. That's one.
I'm nearly 30. That's 2.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not going to have that cake for my 30th birthday. No.
You can have a bit of cake in a minute.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that won't be there on my 30th birthday.
If you ask really, really nicely, Millie might make you a cake.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Yeah. That's not a very good clicker either. Thought I'd try. Thought I'd give it a go.
Indeed. As someone who's 40 is fine. No, you're just so far gone now. You can't remember.
Yeah,
how bad it
just
was.
because it's worse, it doesn't mean this isn't bad.
I would say, like, no, I'm not going there. That's fine.
Yeah. Careful.